This is one of several videos that I'll be posting about additional functions within Illustrator. The first is creating your own pattern brush. Notice that I've drawn a paisley shape. You can draw any shape you'd like. You can draw just a simple arrow, any type of shape you'd like, freehand or otherwise. Go to your brush window, which again they're located under your window, and then there's a create or new brush command. You click on it and we want a new pattern brush. We'll say OK to that. Notice how that as long as you have something selected, it will pop up as a pattern. I generally leave the spacing and scaling separate, so I'm going to call it a paisley. Just say OK to that, and notice you now have a new brush. The brush is always applied to a shape, the stroke of a shape. So I'm going to remove the fill. Then on the stroke, I'm going to go back to the brush palette and click on the brush. Notice how it is stretched and morphed the actual paisley that I've created into so that it will fit the path. Now there are options for the selected object. So any object you draw, let me draw a square and show you what that would look like. Get a regular rectangle. Notice how it looks completely different on a different shape. So let's click on that. We can scale this to be 50%. Notice how it pulled it in some. We can flip it along the path, across the path. We can add space to fit so that it remorphs the shape. We can approximate the path, stretching to fit. So there are a lot of different options that you can have. Notice when you're on an angular shape, you have to get very small to have more than one per side. So let's go to see 33%. So we have two there. Now on the sphere, or the circle, excuse me, let's check on the same thing, the options. Flipping across the path, we can add space or stretch. Notice how we get a few more that way. Approximating the path and stretching to fit look almost the same. Now if we make this much smaller, let's say 15%, notice how we get a nice pattern. Now what you can do with this, you say, well, what good is that? What you can do is you can expand this, expand the appearance, and now you have all these individual shapes. And notice how it went from being a black stroke. Let me go backwards. See, right now it says that it's a black stroke, but when we expand it, we now have black as the fill. So we can go and we can actually change those colors. We can apply a gradient if we'd like, anything. So here I'm going to, using the Option and Shift key, I'm going to draw a circle from the center and then give it a different color. Then I'm going to send it to the back. And we can also do a copy of that green circle and paste it in front, and then click on our scale tool. Just double click on it, and I'm going to scale it down about to 65. And what we can do is either fill it with another color, and see, you can almost start creating your own patterns. If that's too small, just click on the scale tool, and with the Shift key held down, you can do that. Now one other thing you might want to do is you might want to have a window through this circle rather than having it red. So we can select both the red and the green circle. We can go to our Pathfinder and we can exclude, which will actually take that center and knock it out. Now what that does is you now have a window, and I'll show you. Send that to the back. Notice how you can see through it, and that's part of the Pathfinder we talked about earlier, but just to reiterate that. You can again create other shapes. Let's do a star.
And then let's apply the brush to that, just keeping our same brush. And you'll notice there are other brushes too. You can choose any of the arrowheads. You can load brushes, open brush libraries. There are a lot of really good brushes, so you can play around with that on your own. But we'll remove the fill on the star so we can see what we're working with. Then go back to the brush menu, and then we're going to shrink this down again and flip it. And that creates another kind of interesting shape. Let's get it a little larger. Kind of like that. Alright, so now I'm going to move this shape back out. Oh, now that's another thing that I haven't really mentioned a great deal, is if you double click something, like double click, notice how in the upper left you get a layers and then a path, and that allows you to isolate just that and not affect anything else on your pasteboard. To get out of that, you just click the arrow on the far left. Here, let's scale this entire shape. And then I'm going to expand it so that I can then colorize it. I might want to rotate it as well so that it looks truly like a star. And actually I'm going to ungroup so that I can select just the there. Let's choose maybe that color. Now you see what we have been able to isolate part of it. So, think about using, your own brush patterns, or even, as I said, there are other patterns that are available in the brushes, such as this. Let me remove the fill so you can see that. And this is one of the artistic brushes. So just feel free to play around with brushes and making your own patterns.